Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Acupuncture is My Life. Now, in this episode, I want to discuss the many ways that many of you individuals globally feel like you have fibromyalgia and you don't. One thing I'm really not big on is self-diagnosis, which is why I say, along with seeing a physician annually for your annual checkups, make regular wellness visits with an acupuncturist. Because there are many individuals globally, and this was an interesting conversation I had with my global network within the past 24 hours. There were quite a few of us, some from the Middle East, some from China, some from Japan, some from Africa, some from Europe, Canada, South America, and so forth, even the Caribbean. Now, we were discussing fibromyalgia and how so many individuals walk in to our clinics saying they have fibromyalgia. And then, initially when we're listening, we assume that their physician may have diagnosed them with it, and you'll be surprised as to how many times no, it hasn't. They just feel chronic pain and they feel like they have fibromyalgia. They looked it up on the internet and so forth and so on, and it just some acupuncturists get annoyed with it. Most don't. I mean, I don't. It's just, to me, it's a sign of someone being proactive about their health. It may not be the best direction to take. I mean, my recommendation, is see a physician annually. Because if they ran tests and they picked it up and they diagnosed you as such, and you went to see an acupuncturist and you presented that diagnosis to them, it's one thing. But there are so many individuals that suffer from some form of chi and blood stasis or chi stagnation or phlegm damp accumulation. And this is like some of many different types of diagnoses that an acupuncturist can diagnose you with regard to chronic pain disorder. Everyone's different. This is why you need to sit with an acupuncturist. But so many individuals misdiagnose themselves. You have to understand something. Fibromyalgia is basically seen as a disorder of the central nervous system, which can actually cause widespread pain throughout the body. And there are many individuals who have been diagnosed with this illness from a biomedical perspective, not from an acupuncturist perspective. There's a difference. But from a position of biomedicine, they've been diagnosed with this disorder. And you see, most individuals with this long-term illness usually suffer from fatigue and sleep problems, and they'll feel pain, in the neck, shoulders, arms, back, hips, legs, knees, ankles, feet, and so forth. And, this is a disorder that goes undiagnosed 75% of the time. And to some extent it's understandable, because there's some individuals that said, I went to see my physician, they didn't say I had it, but I assumed I had it. That's not a good position to take. Even though there's no blood tests or scans that can easily diagnose this disorder. But even if you were diagnosed as having this disorder or suffering from this disorder, that being fibromyalgia, you need to see an acupuncturist right away. But in the process of misdiagnosing oneself, there are individuals who suffer from arthritis. which can present with symptoms of widespread pain and fatigue. But there's a difference between arthritis and fibromyalgia, and it's important that you understand that. Because one thing is, fibromyalgia usually does not tend to cause tissue inflammation. And it also usually does not physically damage the body's muscles and the joints in which the way arthritis does. Okay. In the early stages of arthritis, you may just experience like painful sensations and muscle stiffness and exhaustion. And this is why sometimes individuals will look up on the internet fibromyalgia and its symptoms, and they'll mistakenly diagnose themselves as having fibromyalgia. Now, in the later stages of arthritis, their symptoms differ greatly from that of fibromyalgia. But if you're suffering from any type of pain throughout the body, you need to see an acupuncturist right away. Another misdiagnosis can be, and this is from personal experience as well, is multiple sclerosis, that and fibromyalgia are two very different types of diseases, albeit there are some similarities, especially in the sense of chronic pain that affects most of the body. You see, multiple sclerosis is basically a neurological condition that attacks and destroys the myelin sheath running along the body's nerves. It tends to protect and surround the nerves. And you see, once the damage is done to the outer layer of the nerves, multiple sclerosis will begin to attack the nerves themselves. And this will cause a person to lose sensation throughout their body. Okay? And it's important that you know this. You see, the difference in between multiple sclerosis and fibromyalgia can include like difficulty walking, blurred eyesight, slurred speech, and more. So if you misdiagnose yourself and you don't seek proper medical attention, you could be walking around with MS or multiple sclerosis, and that's a big problem. That's a huge problem. And it correlates with why I always say, see a physician for annual checkups and an acupuncturist for regular wellness visits, simply because health is wealth. Wealth isn't under the doghouse in the backyard or under your mattress, nor is it in the shoebox in the closet. And the wealth is not in a bank account or a safe in your home or your office. The wealth is not in your pocket, purse, nor your wallet. And it's definitely not in a cryptocurrency account or an app on your phone. The wealth is in you. Another condition that individuals may mistaken for fibromyalgia, and that's lupus. And lupus is basically when your body's immune system just goes crazy and it starts to attack the healthy tissue, and it can trigger or present symptoms such as muscle pain, fatigue, and soreness. It's basically made worse because you're having difficulty sleeping. Now, lupus is an autoimmune disease that affects tens of millions of individuals globally. And it can cause damage to any part of your body, any area, from the epidermis to the joints and even the inner organs. And you see, individuals with lupus may experience like tiredness and soreness that's similar to fibromyalgia. But the key with lupus and fibromyalgia is the initial signs. Whereas the initial signs of lupus tends to be like a rash across the face that worsens whenever you're out in the sun, difficulty with breathing, kidney failure, stroke, heart attack. Yeah. That's the difference. And, there are blood tests that'll pick up, what's going on. Because a physician may measure a person's level of anti-nuclear antibodies. And if it presents as positive, then the patient or the individual has lupus. But then there's ways in which an acupuncturist would assess to determine if you have lupus or not. And see, I know many of you are waiting. Oh, how? What? What would they do? No, see an acupuncturist. Ha, gotcha. See an acupuncturist. Find out. But another is chronic fatigue syndrome. Which will present with fatigue, memory loss, muscle and joint pain, trouble sleeping, and so forth and so on. And a lot of these conditions are similar to fibromyalgia. Tens of millions of individuals globally suffer from chronic fatigue syndrome, and many of them go see an acupuncturist right away. And it's important that you do that. Another, believe it or not, this will shock you, is depression. Okay? Depression. And depression is a key symptom of fibromyalgia. And how can I explain this? Well, I shouldn't say explain. Because if it's a symptom, some see it as it's a symptom of fibromyalgia, so they may have it. But if you suffer from fibromyalgia for several years, it can also cause you to be depressed. So, the two disorders can sort of occur congruently. Okay? So if you suffer from fibromyalgia, you can also suffer from depression as well as anxiety. So to sort of determine which, see an acupuncturist. Seriously, see an acupuncturist. Another illness that can cause you to misdiagnose and think that you have fibromyalgia is hypothyroidism. Why? Because with hypothyroidism, the thyroid is underproducing the hormone, and it's gonna, you're gonna feel tired. There's many things that you're gonna experience, some similar to fibromyalgia. And you see, this gland, the thyroid gland, is responsible for controlling a person's metabolism throughout the body's metabolism. So when there's an underproduction of hormones, thyroid hormone, you'll feel low energy, you'll gain weight, you'll feel cold really easy, your heart rate will slow down, depression. And you see, there are many symptoms of hypothyroidism that can coincide with symptoms of fibromyalgia. So sometimes it could be difficult to differentiate between the two. And this is why, seeing a physician, it could be determined through blood tests. Seeing an acupuncturist, we have our ways of assessing what's going on. Another is polymyalgia rheumatica. Yeah, say that 20 times. Now, polymyalgia rheumatica tends to trigger like aching and stiffness throughout the body, just like fibromyalgia. All right. And polymyalgia rheumatica can be considered an autoimmune disease. It can also cause trouble with sleeping, along with achy joints. But the difference between polymyalgia rheumatica and fibromyalgia is the sudden onset. It's one way to differentiate. And fibromyalgia tends to be, the onset tends to be more insidious. But not to get you to overthink about this situation and misdiagnosing yourself as having fibromyalgia or suffering from fibromyalgia, simply see an acupuncturist and make acupuncture a part of your life, okay? Because acupuncture is my life. What's yours?